Hello, everyone. My name is Karine. I'm the program director with Young Adult Cancer Canada, and welcome to We Get It. So we are trying in the last few weeks to do an introduction of who we are and who our guests are so that we can reach and give access to all of our community members, including those who are actually living with a disability. Some of our community members have, well, all kinds of disabilities. Some have hearing impairments, some have visual impairments, and so we just want to do that so that more of what we offer is accessible to all of them. So first, for anyone who is watching this on Facebook and would like the closed captioning, you can actually find the episode on youngadultcancercanada.ca YouTube channel. So you can actually watch that with closed captioning there. And I'm Karine, like I said, I am actually a white woman, French Canadian in my accent, dark hair. And today, weather has turned. This morning was horrible and rainy. Right now, I'm in my home office, and it is getting kind of clearer outside, which is kind of neat. So this is me, and I am in awesome company once again. How lucky am I, week to week, to be with amazing people. So today, I am with Denis Raymond, a yacker in our community, but also a social worker. So he'll tell you a little bit more about himself. But our conversation together today is going to be around identity, identity and cancer. And Denis has a lot to say about that, and you'll get to discover that. So first, let's go to you, Denis, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Hi everyone, my name is Denis. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Karine. First of all, Yak, I think it's really cool that you're reaching out to and you're making things more accessible to those of our community who really do struggle with this type of platform. So that said, my name is Denny Raymond. I am also French Canadian, but I do not have a typical French Canadian accent, as I'm Franco-Ontarian. So I've grown up in both French and English languages. And I am currently sitting in my lovely living room office. I am a social worker, as Karine has said, and I work as a support services specialist with the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada. As for my physical appearance, I am a white male. I have brown hair, a brown goatee. I'm currently wearing a nice beige, brownish, grayish. I don't know what color this is. Whatever,
kind of great.
Whatever this color is buttoned up shirt.
Yes.
I will not reveal what's below, but
we will keep that for the after hour.
That's for a later video.
Yeah, that's for later. Thank you, Denis.
Thank you.
So
thank you for having me.
I'm super pumped. I'm really happy. This kind of came about. So actually, Denis, a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, I can't remember. Time is so weird this year. But you did this kind of live show for a fundraiser for Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada.
Yes, I did.
I spent the hour listening to you, and at some point during your show, you mentioned the book and the essay that you had done for your master's degree in social work, and that was around identity. So this is the book, but I'll do this properly for those who are interested. This is the English version, but it's called The Impact of a Terminal Cancer Diagnosis on a Young Adult's Identity. And it's an autoethnographic essay. We'll talk about what that is.
Well done.
So this is really what piqued my curiosity, because we've known Denis and also known that Denis had been living with GBM, like he mentioned, and also knew for numerous conversations with some of our community members that identity is something that gets shaken, questioned, moved around a little bit in life in general, but add to that a cancer diagnosis, and in your case, Denis, like a terminal type of diagnosis, and that can do a number. on identity. So I was like, oh man, I want to talk about that with you. So before I ask you some questions and we dig into what this is, this essay, I'm going to start by reading a paragraph at the beginning of your book that to me was like, fuck, that is bang on. So let's
Go
go.
for it.
All right. The result is that young adults who are normally perceived as being the most efficient members of society are being stigmatized and socially excluded, and some have the sense that they are failing to be responsible citizens. At the time of diagnosis, young adults with cancer may though feel guilty of not having adopted the lifestyle which society considers to be the most healthy, and the secondary effects of treatments such as fatigue and weakness can lead to perceptions of inadequacy that come into conflict with the social expectations of efficiency and autonomy at their stage of life. And as I was reading this, I was like, man, that has been the experience of so many people. And sometimes it is not spoken. And I think for a lot of people who are not quite as informed and educated around what it means to have cancer in young adulthood, this to me was like, well, you know what? Aside from all the visual and the thing people know about cancer and the treatment and those who have chemo and those who don't, and sure, that is one part of the experience and that's a hard part of the experience, but there are all kinds of other repercussions that cancer will have on the lives of young adults because of their stage of life, because of where they're at in their lives. That's why we always say it's different to get cancer as a young adult. It's not worse, it's different. And so your book addressed that in so many amazing ways. I loved it. Seriously, I thought it was wicked. It's kind of like reading a story. And then learning a little bit about this autoethnographic type of essay. So tell me a little bit about how this came about, Denis.
Absolutely. I guess just to rewind just a quick little second.
Yeah.
As the title does imply, a GBM, which is the type of cancer that I have, is a very aggressive form of cancer. It comes with a median survival time of 16 months with the best treatments currently available. And so it is considered a terminal cancer diagnosis. By the way, I love that you included the air quotes for in the quote about being
healthy,
the healthy lifestyles. Yes, so thank you for that. I really appreciated it. Because that is what I was going for.
Yeah.
So it was a terminal cancer diagnosis.
And you
after the
like
60, sorry,
that was like your initial diagnosis was in 2014 or 15?
13.
13.
2013. Yes.
So
So
just put
yeah,
that in perspective, people. 16 months, and that
yeah.
was almost 8 years ago. Fuck,
So
that makes me happy, man.
I basically needed to learn how to live with this devastating diagnosis. And I was living a healthy lifestyle previous to my diagnosis. I was very physically active, unlike today. That's for another story, another time. So how did it come about? I was a teacher at the time of diagnosis, and I always found myself gravitating towards more roles being more in line with mentorship and with more in line with mentorship than teaching. And I had met some social workers during my time on this earth that I really admired, and I loved what they were doing. So I always told myself, if I was not a teacher, I would have become a social worker. Eventually, after the 16 months, said, I'm still here. Okay, so I kept teaching. But slowly as time went on, I realized that a lot of my story was giving people hope around me, especially once I was getting to 3 years and 4 years and then 5 years. And yeah, so everyone around me was like, how are you doing this? I said, I learned to live with it, and I'm still here. So I'm just going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
So I decided to to jump for it. Said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do my master's of social work and become a registered social worker. It's I don't have time to put it off anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is what I want to do. And I've always had this impulsiveness to me in my life. If I want to do something, I'll go and do it. And so I found myself doing a master's of social work. And in that master's of social work, it was a practice and research combined program.
Yeah.
So there was the practice portion of it, which was placements, which I was very lucky to have been able to work with some wonderful cancer coaches here in Ottawa. By the way, I'm in Ottawa. Um, and also in Montreal. So I was very happy for those experiences. But then came time to decide what I would research. And that was a whole other story. I knew I wanted to do something with or about young adults. I knew I wanted to do something with or about developments, specifically in the realm of what we call psychosocial, which is psychology and social, quite literally psychosocial,
Mm-hmm.
mixed together. But I didn't know exactly quite what. And it wasn't until one of my professors came to see me, where it was a professor for a course where we were supposed to figure out what we were going to do for a research project. So she came up to me. Oh, actually, I've got something here that I can show. One of the things that they made us do was this little collage of what you do in like elementary school. You get
Yeah.
like a little board, then you take a bunch of magazines,
A
and it's
vision boards kind of thing.
yeah, a vision board actually. And you know what? I think I have what I made here somewhere. I'm just gonna poke around really quickly to see
Yeah,
if I
we do vision
find
boards.
it.
For those of you who don't know, like you kind of can gather images and words and stuff, and depending on what you're working on, you can kind of put them together so that it tells a story about whatever you want to express. That's kind
Yeah,
of, in a nutshell, what a vision board is.
here it is.
Oh, look at that. Okay, so you can see like there's a robot revolution on the top, and then some images of superheroes, right?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like all of these kind of like built people, not built people, but like built creations.
Right.
And yeah, I found this really neat little image of an audience, and I had the idea of making them as part of a visual thing. So I created this, and I was like, what do I do with this now?
Yeah.
And she came to me after and said, have you ever heard of an autoethnography? Do you know what that is? And I said, no, that doesn't sound like a thing. Because I knew what ethnography was. Ethnography is the study of the study of a culture, or it's from anthropology.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a study of a culture or of a people through the objective analysis of relics, of artifacts. Um, but then, saying auto ethnography in front of it, I said, is it like an autobiography, but you're studying yourself? She was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, pretty much, pretty much. So I looked into it more, and me being, I have a degree in mathematics and physics. I'm a very
Yes.
scientific rigor person. And when I read about this thing, I said, there's no way this is real. There's no way this is a thing.
This is
And
not scientific enough.
yeah, exactly. I was like, how can you study yourself and present it scientifically? And I was just, anyways, long story short, after I overcame these hurdles, these obstacles towards accepting that that's what I should do,
Mhm.
um, I set my sights on doing that
Yeah.
um, for my research project. And it was quite the work. So the book that we had showed just now is actually the completely translated version of the this is
French version.
the real version. This is the one that I wrote.
La construction identitaire chez le jeune adulte atteint de cancer de stade terminal. Donc,
Yeah,
les francophones qui nous écoutent.
Oui, yeah. Voilà. And of course, this is really ugly yellow and this white here. I don't know how this materialized itself, but essentially, I did this, and then I said, you know what, I want people to read it. I want it to be accessible, because otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah.
So I had it professionally translated, and now it has become this lovely work of art, mostly because it has my face on it.
I know it does have your face on it. And so as I was reading through it, so obviously like this, we have like about 15 minutes left. Like we're not going to get to
Yeah.
watching, but that's okay. Like I'm not going to stress about that. But for anyone watching, obviously, we're not going to get around talking about identity, especially in relationship to cancer, in a way that you're going to finish watching this episode and say, well, I'll know exactly what to do. I always explain to Denis that even though I didn't go through a cancer experience myself, I left reading this book with a bunch of questions, but also a lot of curiosity about my own identity, what this means for me. So if we wanted to, I know there's not clear steps, but as I was going through your book, I could see, you looked into turning points, your background, your interest groups, your relationship, your work. Yeah, you kind of went through big kind of chunks of your life and spent some time thinking about it. And I guess all those pieces am I right to understand that all those pieces are part of what helps us understand what our identity is? Is that
absolutely yeah. There are certainly a couple things that were more specific to me. Specifically like the common interest groups. I'm a very social person, and finding a group like Yak. By the way, if you are listening to this and you have not connected with Yak yet, what are you waiting for? These guys are fantastic. Finding groups where you have like a commonality, where you don't have to strain an explanation as to why you're there and what you're doing and who you are, groups that are accepting of you as you are. I identified that really quickly as one of the key kind of things for me that was tremendously important to my identity, to my well-being. So I started essentially by looking at who I was before. I identified certain chunks of my life as being the most defining, if I should say, and what was between those, those chunks, which was the turning points. And of course, as we get older, we accumulate so many of these turning points that it kind of gets muddled up. So I did a crazy person thing, and I'll just show you a quick picture.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool, but I'm a big fan of the series Homeland. So
the
wall in her apartment. This is Denis' wall. So what we're seeing here is a picture of a wall at Denis' parents' house with paper, tons of paper stuck to the wall, which is your timeline, right?
Exactly. So I basically took control of my parents' basement, and I went, crazy serial killer detective with pictures everywhere and timelines. I even had the string that would go everywhere, which was, I totally get why they do that in these shows now, because it's actually really useful. I'm a very visual person, and it helped me tremendously. So I essentially went about building a timeline of my life, with always keeping in mind that I would be looking at this through the lens of how cancer had transformed who I was, how I identified, like who I was, what was my identity. Not only my identity for myself, but my identity for others, how I presented myself to others. which is, oftentimes something that's totally disconnected, who we actually are and who we present ourselves. And it's
Mhm.
it's a very obvious thing with social media now,
Mhm.
because we get to choose how we present ourselves to the world. So that's I think that's a little nugget in the back of my brain there. That's no, I'll just say I might have a second book in the works, but
Yeah,
nothing
it's
nothing
it's
on paper yet.
it's a different experience, and I think you're right. And because ultimately, so our identity changes over
Yeah,
time through
it does.
experiences, but then
Hmm.
to look at it, so basically, so for those who wonder, like, because I know looking at your wall, it can look a bit intimidating. I'm not sure
Hmm.
I'm going to go through the full wall
It
when I
was a
work,
lot. It was a lot of work. It was a lot
but
of work.
ultimately, so what you did is you kind of started by looking before cancer, who
Hmm.
you were back then in some of the big pieces, and then turning points into then within when cancer happened, then other big important parts of your life, your relationships, and to your point, your interest groups, and all of those pieces. And that's kind of how you figure it out. What happens once when you have all your stuff on your wall, and what happens? Is it a revelation of like, this is who I am? Like,
Oh,
is there a
definitely not.
finality?
Definitely
How does
not.
that work?
No, it was more picking through the details. Like, oh yeah, this kind of resembles this over here, and this um a difficult exercise in grouping kind of like the common themes, and that's how I came to eventually group, the common interest groups and my relationships with others and my intimate relationships, and basically what were the commonalities, over time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And how would you say? So I know that at the end of going through this kind of process, and then within your essay, and then since then, like I
Oh,
know,
hang on. I'm not done with the process yet.
I
The
know,
process continues ongoingly, and I think it does for everybody,
yeah.
as we move forward in life.
There's no finality of like, okay, I've done this,
I'm
and now
done.
I know
This
my
is me.
identity.
I
And
am a statue. That's it.
that's it. Let's take a picture, and this is it. I'm two-dimensional now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think this living, but I love, to me, when as I was reading and thinking about it, it's kind of to get to know ourselves. Because as I was reading it, I felt like even though we've known each other for a long time, I felt like I was discovering parts of you that, of course, I didn't know about. Like, it's not like, but I was like, oh, this is such an interesting dive in to who you are and who you see yourself, how others saw you, and then to kind of be able to have that ongoing reflection. How has that helped you as you were going through, really, like beating the odds about a million times, but how has that helped you in your life, in your cancer life?
I'm a firm believer that um I even have a tattoo to reflect this. A is A. It's a matter of acceptance. And I know there are many people who have different views on, or different I guess, relationships with cancer, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
Um, I was in this very firm mindset for a long time that I need to accept my situation, and only then can I accept who I am now, and how, like, what is my role in this world? How do I proceed? How do I move forward? How do I do anything, you know, given that I am now, I was on one track and now that track has switched.
Mhm.
What do I do now? How do I navigate?
Yeah. Are you able to put words into how you got to an acceptance space? Do you see, and sometimes I know those things are more, I
Hmm.
feel like I'm in a different place, and sometimes we kind of know some turning points that helped us get there. Do you have any?
That might be the subject of my next book. I don't know. But let me try to give you an answer. There very rarely are things in life are clear cut.
Mhm.
And even, we can just look in the space of cancer survivorship, even just that word, cancer survivor. What does that mean?
Mhm.
Ask one person what a cancer survivor means, and another person, and they'll give you two completely different responses.
Yeah.
So for me, it was first and foremost to, I guess, almost define that word for myself,
Mhm.
and and decide that, and decide that I still want and I still need to have an impact on the world in order for me to keep doing anything. I had this saying that I liked to say. I don't like it as much anymore, but it's, it why, like, I don't want to live like I'm dying. I want to live like I'm living.
Mhm.
And so why should I, you know
Sit and
yeah,
wait, kind of.
why should I sit and wait? Exactly. This is, and so much good has come from, moving forward, and moving forward is, again, something that is whatever you decide it is.
Mhm.
you know um
Yeah. It's not, we talk about that. It's not, moving forward does not have to be related to being done with cancer, or not,
right.
being done treatment, or, as we know, like you, many other of our community members are living, have a very different relationship with their
Yeah,
diagnosis and prognosis of cancer. But I think
exactly.
moving forward,
And
I agree
yeah,
with you.
and I think I also had a bit of an edge in the sense that it was a terminal cancer diagnosis. Again, the term terminal is highly debated, in research, in medicine, in everywhere and everything.
Yeah.
um, but for me, that definition essentially means, I have this until I die, and this will probably be the cause of my death.
Hmm.
So, as hard as it was for me to open the door to exploring my own, well, to exploring that idea, because nobody, like, we're, in society, we don't like to talk about death. No one likes to talk about death. We like to look at a moving picture and see somebody on a bed and go, ugh.
Yeah.
It's okay. It doesn't, we process a little bit of emotion,
Yeah.
but it's all manipulated. It's all just, it's fake. It's not real.
Yeah.
We
Outside of
don't,
ourselves. Yeah.
yeah, we don't like to talk about it. We don't like to look at it.
Think about it. We don't like to think
We
about it.
don't like to think about it. Yeah, exactly. And I guess I said, well, I have to look at it because that's what's coming for me.
Mm.
But yeah, that's what's coming for me. So I did have, in a sense, to go back to what my initial thought was. I'm sorry if I'm all over the place here.
No, I'm
Um,
following you, man.
my Yeah, so I had an edge in terms of acceptance because I don't have a choice.
Hmm.
And I'm still living in that. And how there was a term I stumbled on that really put the finger on what I was feeling, and that term is liminality.
Mm.
And liminality is the state of uncertainty. It's the ambiguity between two states is what it is. So you know who you are, you know what this is, and it's during the process of transformation, you don't know what it's going to look like at the end.
Hmm.
You don't. But you still have to figure out a way to navigate that space, where, in that time
Hmm.
of transformation, in that space, that's a liminal space, is what they call it.
Hmm.
um I thought that was fantastic. I got
Yes.
hooked. I got hooked on that word, on that term. um yeah, so I will essentially, basically, be in a liminal state right until the time where I am no longer conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Yeah.
that's the other thing is I realized that whole idea of nobody likes to talk or think about death. I said, well, you know what? I'm going to talk and think about death. So I did a lot of reading. I picked up some fantastic books on grieving, and I realized that I was grieving. A part of it was I was grieving for myself. I was grieving for who I was,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is what brought me to that sense of identity and exploring that idea of identity. The other edge I have is that identity has always been um, something I've pondered about, given the fact that, as I said in my introduction, I have lived with French and English equally in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So, am I Franco-Ontarian or am I an Anglophone? I'm neither. I'm a Franco-Ontarian.
Yeah. Yeah. You're both.
And yeah, and there's a lot of aspects to our identity that we can pick apart and figure out, okay, well, why am I like this?
Mm-hmm.
How come I behave this way? How come how come when I see this I think in this way?
Mm-hmm.
And that like in my own personal belief is that all of that, and I did find some researchers who agreed with me, all of that ties into the notion and the idea of identity.
Yeah.
Who are we? Who are we? Why do we do the things we do? Why do we behave or think the way we do? Yeah, it's
And the more reason, anyway, like to me, I don't know if listening, like I have a million thought that came to mind, and then I'm like, oh, sometimes it's okay to just let things sit. Like I loved a lot of what she said, the liminality. So in your book, like that was one page I had like folded a few pages, and I loved that concept a lot, Denny, a lot. It reminded me of this, like I showed this trapeze video at retreats and the transition kind of endings and then neutral zone and beginnings and
oh
how
yeah,
that
I think I've I think I've seen that.
you
I
probably
one of the
have.
retreats.
You've been
Yeah,
to events,
I
but
think I
you know the
think
neutral zone, the liminality, that what you're that space you're talking about, to me, when you find a way to be in it, the transformation that takes place in there that often
mhm,
are not visible to most people is
mhm.
tremendous, because you know in life we're more used to seeing when something ends everybody notices, and when something starts everybody notices, but what
What
happens
happens in that between?
it's like a whole fucking lot happens there, and to kind of figure out and explore and all these things you've mentioned, I'm like, well, I do agree with you that understanding who we are, this essence, this identity, whatever word really you want to give it, but to me it's like, well, that can really help understand choices, maybe even change paths in your life, because you're starting to understand a little bit more, well, I appear
Absolutely.
to react like that every time this or that happens.
Yeah.
What, where is that coming from? And sometimes, yeah, sometimes maybe not, but a
Yeah,
lot of
sometimes
times
not.
I think it roots back to our identity.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I heard from you, so I'm like, if we wanted to put this in a little nice box with a bow, but a part, as I was listening to you, I heard purpose. Like a part of me feels when we started to talk about acceptance and how you found your way there, you really, to me, you were describing like giving your life purpose, like how,
Yep.
you know, being there for some reason. And again, to everyone listening, finding purpose in life, you don't have to do giant things to actually have a purpose in
Absolutely.
your life and then in the lives of others. It's not about
Yeah.
how big something is, it's about maybe figuring out that, okay, what is it, what gets me going, what gets me getting up, and what helps me accept things as
Exactly.
they are.
Exactly. And sometimes it means letting go of your shit.
Sometimes it does. Look at us with
Plugging.
our books.
Well,
I have
our libraries must be exactly the same.
it's exactly the news. Like, there we are. You know, we didn't even call each other before. It's too bad we're
Well,
not dressed the same. But yeah, we have let go of your shit.
I don't know. I didn't reveal what was underneath.
I said, Denis, that's X-rated version. But
That's
for those who didn't see, we referred to Let Go of Your Shit, which is a new book by Alexander Mandarino and Gabriel Fecto, who I'll put the information in the reference. But yeah, that's it. There are all kinds of
and fun story. Gabriel and I, we did the same program, the same master's program at different times, but we did follow the exact same program. Yeah, no, they're both fantastic people, and
yes.
and their videos for the last one should be up somewhere.
Yes, and it's a good book. Denis, this was so neat. If do you have, like, if I asked you for a few last words, either if you're addressing someone who is brand new, who has never really connected to the community, who has never maybe even considered or thought about their identity in relation to what they went through in regards to cancer. Do you have any famous last words that you would like to share before we end this thing today?
Whew, that's a tall order.
I know, right?
Because I have so many words all the time.
I know you do. You can pick your favorites.
I guess I'll go with what I said. No, can I have two? I want two. I'm gonna take two.
You can have more.
So the first thing was what I had said earlier. You're not dying. You're not dead yet. Live like you're living, not like you're dying. And the second one was from a yacker who really it spoke to me so intensely, and I've lived with her words, the words of wisdom that she had said, which unfortunately she's passed away now. It was and I think I spoke at a conference as well, and I referenced it as well. Was, you know, and at the time I said that's silly, but it actually worked. It was, if you planned for something, it'll happen. And I'm not much of a planner, but I just, you know, whether you're planning for 2 hours from now, tomorrow, eventually, if you're living a situation where you have no idea, whether, if you're in an acute situation, you're definitely acute to me. For a long time, I lived one day to the next. Eventually I found myself being able to live 1 week to the next, eventually 1 month to the next, and I like to think that I can now live 1 year to the next. Although we can't ever know what the future brings. I myself had a recurrence and had to have 2 surgeries earlier this year, which was not expected, not planned,
not fun,
not ideal. But I did it because I knew that if I did it once, I can do it again.
Yeah.
So if you plan for something, it'll happen is really more, just about putting one foot in front of the other. Plan for that next step.
I love this. Yeah, there's something. I was once selling a yak I was talking to. There's some relief sometimes, even when you feel like you can't plan for even the next 5 minutes. There's something that can be such a break and a relief to even allow yourself to dream up something, dream up maybe how you would like to feel tomorrow, and allow for your imagination to go there. And I'm not saying that magically everything is going to be exactly as it is the next day, but even if for that brief moment of planning up how you would like for things to go or what you would like to do, that pause it can give our minds and our hearts and our brain, that's valuable, my friend. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm not talking about the magic thinking. I'm just saying I love that. If you plan for it, it's going to happen. Thank you for that. This was great. I certainly encourage anyone who is listening to go on Amazon. That's where I got Denis' book, and to get his book so you can read about his story. So we'll put this reference, and to also let go of your shit. That book as well is available, and we can do a shameful plug for Gabrielle and Alex.
I'm very excited to read this. I have not read it
Really
yet.
neat.
I literally walked in the door yesterday at midnight, and it was on my doorstep. So I was like,
yes.
Yay.
Well, it's a good book. So thank you so much, Denis. I love that we got to spend this time today. Anything before we go? Anything happening with Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada for Young Adults that we want to put?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So, being an employee of the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada, I oversee a lot of the programming, and we are starting up a virtual support group for young adults with a brain tumor. That said, I did say brain tumor.
Mm-hmm.
Brain cancer is included in that, but there are also the lower grade. In the brain tumor world, we talk about grades as opposed to stages because, brain tumors don't metastasize.
Mm-hmm.
They can be metastasis, but they do not metastasize. So if you are interested at all, I don't know how well I can
include the info here.
Absolutely, that'd be great, and you can include my email as well, my work email.
Great.
I'll just say it. I'll say it out loud right now. So it's D Raymond at braintumor.ca. Now, be mindful that we are a Canadian organization, so tumor is spelled OUR. I don't.
Yes, with the U.
That didn't work. That like that.
Yes.
That looks like an R, right?
It does, kind of. That's pretty good. And
OUR.
we will have that information available on our site. So this is great. Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada does amazing work. So check them out if you get a chance. And until we are together again next week, you know what I'm going to say? Just breathe, people. It is Monday night.
And let go of your shit.
Just breathe as you let go of your shit. Just remember to take a few deep breaths as you listen to this, as you finish listening to this, and you're like, oh my God, what is my identity? How do I go figuring that out? Just breathe and then sit with it, and you're going to figure it out. And we're here to support you because we've got your back. Thank you, Denis, for this.
Thank you, Karine.
Thanks, everyone. See you next
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.